that are teachers, and there are people that are spiritual leaders. Everyone has their function or job in building. But God says the word shechon ba'aretz, you see in verse 2. Secondary, we explained the word gur, being a temporary resident. That's how we ended our short yesterday. For now, you can be a temporary resident. Why? Because you're going to be living in Gerar. Why is it called a temporary resident? Because to live in Gerar under the leadership of the Plishtim, that's equal to Galut in the land of Israel. If that is the case, what is Hashem's objective? What is really God asking from Yitzhak? God is asking from Yitzhak, you're not allowed to leave this land, even when times are difficult. No, there's a rav, there's a famine in the land. It's hard to live here. I want you to be an example for all the children, for all future generations, that even when things are tough, we don't leave, we don't escape. We struggle with the existing situation. That's number one. The meaning, the objective of this double message. Meaning number two is the following. To remember, Yitzhak heard from his father what was God's promise to Avraham regarding Brit Bein HaBetarim, the covenant of the pieces. What is Yitzhak doing? Interpreting that maybe now the 400 years that God prophesied to Avraham will start now when I go down to the land of Mitzrayim. Does it say the Galut will have to be in Mitzrayim? No, it just says to Avraham Avinu, quote, Yadoa Teda, surely shall you know, Ki ger yezaracha, your seed will be a stranger. Where? Be'eretz lo lahem, a land which does not belong to them. Yitzchak is interpreting or thinking that by my going down to Mitzrayim, the clock now begins. The clock of the Galut, but also the clock of the redemption. Because at the latter part of that promise, what is it? God is going to take us out. We're going to become a nation. And will give us a lot of wealth, and so on and so forth. Yitzchak thinks this is so. My question to all of you here, my dear students, is staying in Gerar the beginning of the clock of the Galut? How could it be? You're right. Because Galut is not only living outside the country, as the Maral of Prague explains in his opening chapters in the book called Netzach Yisrael, Galut can also be inside our land, but under the authority of others. That's Galut. Living in Gerar, which is part of a vast area called the Plishtim area, that certainly can be what? A fulfillment of God's words to Avraham Avinu, quote, Ki ger yeh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem. Do you understand what the point I'm trying to explain to you? Right now, by God not allowing him to leave, but remaining in the southwest area of Gerar, the Plishtim area, that's the beginning of the clock of the Brit Bein HaBetarim. Any questions on that, gentlemen? All of this, God is showing us now that the objective of this message as well is the Shekhinah, Shchon Ba'aretz. When we live in the land of Israel, what does that bring metaphysically? God's presence. When we're not here, God's presence is void. When we are here, Shchon, Shekhinah, God's presence is available. God's promise here, and I wanted to bring to your attention also in verse 4, the blessing, Vidbaruchu bezaracha kol goyei haaretz. Do you hear this? Yitzchak is special, that he gets a blessing. Do you see that at the end of verse 4? That the nations of the world, through your seed of Yitzchak, they're going to be blessed. When we use the word blessing, we think of an alternative word, abundance. Economic abundance, bracha, a lot. Remember the word bet resh chaf, bracha, the root of the word. Numerical value of bet is how much? Reish, 200. Kaf, 20. The Maharal of Prague is not my point. The Maharal of Prague points that out, that even the numerical values of the letters of the word bracha is a plurality. 220, 200. Do you see that? The numerical, it's something fantastic. How will Yitzhak be the pillar of economic welfare we're about to see now in this upcoming incident? Let's now go on to the next incident, verse 6, okay? And we're up to Pasuk Vav, verse 6. Vayeshev Yitzchak Bigrar. Well, that's a long verse, isn't it? How many words? 3. Imagine. Vayeshev Yitzchak Bigrar. What's unique? What's the novelty here? Look at just 3 words. Tell me the novelty. We're in Pasuk Vav, verse 6 of chapter 26, Kavav. 3 words. Vayeshev Yitzchak Bigrar. What is the point here? Look at the first verb, gentlemen. Don't go far. Vayeshev. Is he a stranger there for 1 moment, 2 moments, 1 month, 2 months? Vayeshev, meaning he is a resident, a citizen, a resident. In other words, this pasuk contains a time period, a lengthy time period. He remains there. He doesn't go to Hebron, where his parents are buried. Doesn't go to Beit El, where Avram built an altar. He's now living in Gerar, which is the place of war today. Gerar is the western side of the Negev that goes into the Gaza Strip. Nachal Gerar. This is current events. Yitzchak is living in Gerar, and he's living there on a permanent basis. So that's interesting. You want to hear this? I wrote notes here on my Chumash about the geography of Gerar, and I wrote that it's the western Negev, the western side of the Negev, not far from Gaza, but next to Kibbutz Re'im, also one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on the terrible day of that Shabbat in Shmini Atzeret. And it's next to what the road that we once drove on, called Kisufim. That's the name of the road. Kisufim is the longing. There's a town there called Kisufim next to the Gaza border when we used to be living in Gush Katif. And here it is. The Jewish people were living in Gerar, in Gush Katif, like Yitzchak Avinu, and we're hoping, I don't know if you saw a clip last night from the war. It was a very interesting clip. 3 guys inside Gaza with a flag, the Star of David, and we've come back home in Hebrew letters. Chazarnu habayta. And then one of them speaks, it's one of my wife's nephews. Hey Bibi, we're not just conquering Gaza, we're not just demolishing Gaza, but we plan to live here as well. That's what he said. It was very, very special. Gentlemen, let's go on and see how Yitzchak Avinu represents the component of the 3 pillars that God brought in the world, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and that Yitzchak will represent the economic element of the future of the Jewish people. Vayishalu anshe hamakom leishto, in verse 7. Here it's interesting, we don't see whatsoever, there's even talk between Yitzchak and Rivka, unlike the huddle that Avraham and Sarah would talk. Remember? Here we don't even see that. One of the commentators brings this. Okay, and the Netziv says, but whenever she's asked, what does he say first? Vayomer, achotihi. Ki yarei lemor ishti, pen yarguni anshe hamakom Rivka, ki tovat marei. So unlike Avraham and Sarah who discuss these matters, here we see a point and objective we've mentioned before in our shiur. There's the communication level between this husband and wife is not like Avraham and Sarah. Okay? One of the meanings could be that Rivka was very submissive to Yitzchak. She had tremendous awe, respect of who Yitzhak is from that very first time. She fell off the camel when we saw her praying in such a special way. So she had deep awe for Yitzhak Avinu, and she would never have an alternative opinion to Yitzhak. That's what the Netziv Volozhin says. So okay, we're playing now an identity game. She is not my wife. She is my Pasuk Chet verse 8. Vayi ki arachulo shama yamim. You remember yamim can mean shanim. That's correct. Years. Vayashkef. Avimelech, the king, or his advisors, has a mishkefet. Vayashkef. Avimelech melech plishtim be'ad hachalon. Vayar. What does he see from a distance with his observatory tower? Vina Yitzchak mitzachek. Some explain he's hugging his wife, he's kissing his wife. Eight Rivka ishto. Now he clearly understands. Look, after being there a long time, Yitzchak wasn't so careful. But who is curious to see what's going on? Avimelech. He doesn't exactly abide by the laws of privacy, does he? He doesn't abide by the laws of privacy. And he's so curious. And he's thinking, well, do you think he knows that this Yitzchak is the son of Avram Avinu? What do you think, gentlemen? Do you think he knows that he's the son of Avram Avinu? Avram Avinu was called in Hebron by the mayor, Nesi Elokim ata betochenu. You're a prince of God. He's well known across the country. Whether it's the same Avimelech or his father who made a treaty together, says, of course, Yitzchak is famous. My dear mayor of Gerar, my name is Avimelech. Could it be that this Yitzhak is a single guy for so many years? Maybe that aroused his curiosity. He's not married? Come on. What's going on here? So maybe that aroused his curiosity. And he sees he was a little lax, Yitzchak. And he was hugging his wife. And at a distance, now we're going to see, does Avimelech want to nail him? Let's see what he says about him. Pasuk Ted Vayikra Avimelech al Yitzchak, he calls him, he sends a messenger. The horse brings them. Vayomer ach. However, Hine ishtachai. I have a finding. Hine, behold, she's your wife. Vecha Marta, how did you dare say to me? I'm adding the word dare. Achoti. Vayomer lav Yitzchak, he provides the proper excuse. Ki amarti pen amut aleha. Rabbeinu Saadia Gaon explains, what does pen here mean? Lest, meaning, because of her, I would have been killed. Okay? I have the fear of death. That's why we didn't tell you that she's my wife. And now Avimelech says innocently, Pasuk Yud Vayomer Avimelech, Mazot asita lanu. He sounds like he's mad. What did you do to us? Us meaning my people as well. Kimat shachav achat ha'am et ishtecha. Almost one of the guys of the nation slept with her. Who's one? Himself. He's me. Achad here meaning, give me another word for the word achad, please.
The first one. Like who is the leader?
The leader, miyuchad. Maybe that'll be a good word. Miyuchad. And that's me. Ve'veita aleinu Hashem, you would have brought guilt on us. So the truth is, anyone could have had relations with Rivka, and you had a doubt of danger, and now you're bringing guilt to me. There could have been many respective people in his house. The truth is, it seems that Mr. Avimelech is aggressive in his claims. Does it make sense now, his next pasuk? Verse 11, gentlemen. Vayitzav Avimelech. He makes a proclamation, gentlemen. As you all know, Vayitzav from the word mitzvah. He commands. To whom is he commanding? Et kol ha'am. All of his people. Lamor saying the following: Hanogia ba'isha ze uveishto mot yumat. Look at me. Hanogea ba'ish uveishto. What question could you raise on this proclamation, this command? Hanogea ba'ish uveishto mot yumat. What is the problem? No one wants what? He doesn't want anyone to sleep with her. He heard the story of his father or himself 100 years ago. It's likely his father, that they were plagued. So why don't you just say, isn't the object here the problem, Yitzhak? Okay? So just command, no one should commit adultery to the wife, to Rivka. So what is Avimelech talking about? The prohibition is also no one should touch him? That's a question that's raised. Anyone have an answer to that question? I mean, just to say, no one should touch her. She's a married woman. Why does he have to make a declaration, don't touch?
Maybe the people is too corrupt that even though they know that this is a holy man, they still wanted to pursue.
But if someone, why prohibit to touch Avraham Avinu?
Yitzhak, maybe?
Yitzhak, thank you.
Because they might kill him?
They might be plagued.
Maybe. I saw an interesting answer also by the Nitziv Elazar. Gentlemen, if you thought that 20, 30, or 40 years ago, there was a new entity in the world called economic boycotting or economic embargo, it did not start then. The Nitziv Elazar holds that there's anti-Semitism right here now, and now we're talking about an economic boycott against and his wife. No one do business with them. He's blatant. Hanogea baish uveishto. No one. I'm forbidding you to do business with them, and if you do business with them, mot yumat. That's right. In other words, he padded his decree. Okay, and he phrased his decree so that no one will lift his eyes on Rivka, but really, he wants to cause economic damage. Yitzchak's been living here for a while. Vayeshev, remember? He's dwelling there for a while. He's living there. He's economically independent. And we're seeing something fantastic happening now as we're about to read, and you'll see it. Now, if you make a boycott, no one should buy from them. Okay? It means only buy and sell from our local people or traders coming through. What happens? What does Hashem do to Yitzchak? Pasuk Yud Bet, verse 12. Vayizra Yitzchak ba'aretz hahi. Note that adjective, ba'aretz hahi. Second, vayimtza bashana hahi. Notice the next adjective, that year. And what is found? Me'ah sha'arim. What's the name of that neighborhood in Yerushalayim? Is it from here? Thank you. Vayivarcheu Adonai. What's going on here? When you read this pasuk with the understanding of that we just said right now, the Nitziv Elazar, that there's an economic boycott against Yitzchak and his wife, you now see that it's not nature taking a course here, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving Yitzchak a blessing. It's not nature, but a blessing. Number one, ba'aretz hahi. Have you traveled in the Negev? What do you want to tell me about the soil there? The air is dry. What about the soil? What is the Negev soil? Sand. When was the last time you planted in sand? You don't plant in sand. Okay, that's number one. So he's planting ba'aretz hahi in the western Negev. Furthermore, vayimtza bashanahi. That year, maybe we're still the beginning of the year that he left Eretz Yisrael proper. What happened in Eretz Yisrael proper? There was a famine. It could be affecting to a bit that year, even the western Negev. But not that much, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to live there. So it's a difficult land. It's a difficult year. And what does he get? Me'ah sha'arim. Some explain it regarding the difficult year, that it was a year of a lack of rain. Now, this is before drip irrigation, isn't it? So you just can't bring from Ashkelon or Ashdod water for cultivating the crops there. What happens? Me'ah sha'arim. Little translation. 100 gates. Let's give two classic explanations. One is Rashi, another is I don't know right now, remember. What 100 fields could provide as far as yield is concerned, one field of Yitzhak provided that yield. That's 100 times. Meaning number one. That's what Rashi brings. Number two, a field that they would estimate that could produce, let's say, a unit of volume called a core. Instead of it producing one core, it produced 100. Each and every field that he had was 100 times. Now, what's happening to the Plishtim economy? It's a difficult year. When it's a difficult year, what do you say about the supply of economic produce? Declines. It declines. Yet the demand remains the same demand. When you don't find markets to buy food, but who does have a market? Uh-oh. Do you know what's about to happen? What's about to happen? They're going to go buy. They're not going to keep the king's decree. Vayivarcheu Hashem. This is what we see. This is the year the king of Gerar ordered not to buy from Yitzhak. But what's happening? The Plishtim don't have crops, yet Yitzhak Avinu does have plenty of crops. They have no choice but to buy from who? There's a new supplier in the area. Malafafonim, agvaniot, pilpilim, right? All Yitzhak Avinu. So this is from Hashem. Vayivarcheu Hashem, the two words, you see that? What happens the next season? And the next season after that? Huh? By the way, do you think Yitzhak didn't have a BA or MA from the University of London School of Economics? What price do you think he sold his produce for?
It's very high.
Why very high?
Because only himself we have.
The others don't have to supply. Yeah. The price goes up, doesn't it? So, do you understand what's happening to Yitzhak Avinu? Let's keep on reading, please. Pasuk Yud Gimel, verse 13. Okay? So after the Torah says, Vayivarcheu Hashem, okay? And all this is a blessing from God. Yeah, usually the eye doesn't see the bracha here, but here, the producer was blessed. It was increased and increased. The eye sees everything. The result is, Vayigdal Ha'ish. What pant size did he wear beforehand? No, Yosef. We're not talking about his pant size? No. Vayigdal. What are we talking about is? Vayigdal Ha'ish. He became greater. Not in the size of his pants, but rather in material wealth. How much? Look at the term. Vayelech, one verb. Haloch vegadel. Ad ki gadal mo. The word Gimel Dalid Lamed Gadol appears how many times in this pasuk? 3 times. Every day is becoming richer, more wealthier. To the extent that people are saying, you know what? We're better off even buying the dung of the donkeys of Yitzchak and not the gold and silver of Avimelech. There's a Breshit Rabbah that stated about that. And Rashi brings, when you buy the dung, it's classic. What can it be used for? Fertilizer, fuel. Okay? They would be more interested in buying the dung of Yitzchak's animals than investing in the gold and silver of the king of Egypt. My dear friends, isn't this interesting? The Ramban brings here, if I'm not mistaken here, do you remember the term we used a few weeks ago, the great Nachmanides Ramban? 4 words, Masei Avot, Siman Lebanim. The events happening to the patriarchs are a sign that it's going to happen to the children, the nation thereafter. We clearly see, studying some Jewish history over the ages, that when Jews were living amongst the Gentiles, subjected to their taxes, living in the shade of the Goyim, like Yitzchak's living next to Avimelech, Jews became very wealthy. In the textile industry, and today in science, and in medicine, right? Correct? Jews all over the world are are becoming so successful. It's all from Hashem. Where is this DNA? Here it is. Yitzhak Avinu. Yitzhak Avinu becomes the pillar of Parnasah. Have a great day today, gentlemen.